Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. Well, we're back for another episode. We're going to do something different. I'm sure you've seen us rank things before, but you've never seen us do a tier list before. It's kind of the same, but it's different in a more interesting way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be doing a tier list for the MCU villains that appear in movies. I know it says MCU, so cinematic universe, but unfortunately, their cinematic universe involves TV as well. So we're not. If you're upset that you didn't see Gravik on here, there's a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think before we start, people should know we are gonna be. I mean, some of these will be obvious, and we might not need to discuss them. But since we're not doing separate lists, it's got to be all one thing. When we are discussing and seeing where we go, I think I said we're gonna base this off of the look of the villain, whatever that means to you. I think I'm gonna be taking in like comic book accuracy or just looking cool, even if it's not comic book accurate. The performance, so I'm taking into consideration like the actor, like what they put into it, and also performance, and then their plan.
Yeah, how good was their plan? Was
but
their plan kind of crappy or good? So
exactly.
It's
but I
really
think we
good.
should also take into account, since this is a world where people can pop up again. We should also probably consider their arc. So like, yeah, the first time we see them, they might have had an amazing plan and they might have looked great in a great performance, but maybe they showed up later and you were like, ugh, oh no. So maybe we should also take that into consideration, like their overall arc as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The multiple movies and all that kind of stuff, it really does change a villain's outlook and all that kind of stuff. So there's gonna be some that are really, really fun to talk about, like Scarlet Witch. And then there's ones that are just like, like you said, very obvious where they go and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is gonna be really, really good. I'm looking forward to this. I love tier lists. I love lists in general, and tier lists to me are like the best thing. So this is gonna be a wild and fun episode for me.
Let's do it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna start off Iron Man 1, Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger, played by Jeff Bridges. I'm gonna say this. I think I would say A, because a lot of the plan is working for him, and I guess that's what it looks like in like the look of it. I was like, yeah, that's, if I ever look up Ironmonger, that kind of is what it looks like when he gets by the time he gets to the suit. I know the actor wasn't that happy about doing it, but that doesn't really come through in his performance, if I'm being honest. I didn't really
he's a pro.
that he wasn't having a good time. So, as you said, he's a professional. So like the articles you can look up of him being like, "Kill me off, I don't even want to be here," doesn't really translate to the actual performance.
So you have him at A. I have him at C, to be honest with you.
C. I think for me, it's like he's for what the. I think this is why I thought of arc, but maybe I'm doing it too meta here. But like for what the MCU in this nascent stage needed, he fit the bill. Like it was like, yeah, this is, you really served your purpose. This is, you got things started. Obviously, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even have Tony Stark as Iron Man. Like there's a lot of great knock-on effects of what he did, even if it didn't fully work out for him. He still, like, I think one of the moments I always remember is him like putting that, whatever the tech is that turns Tony pale, and he looks like he's dying, and I was like, holy shit, like he's really going for it here. But I'm willing to hear you out on C.
So I have him at C just because I didn't think his plan was any good. I thought it was just like, all right, keep Tony out of the way, and that's literally my plan while I like scum and try to do like backdoor shenanigans stuff. To me, it was like if it's not an original plan, and that's what I didn't like about it. Is just like, all right, I have to jump through all these legal loopholes and all this kind of stuff until Tony can take care of the company again and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, he didn't have any intention on giving up that power, but his ability to keep that power to me was like, all right, I get that you're responsible for uh Tony being in the cave in the first place and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't seem like a good enough plan, to
I
be honest to
think
me.
also for me, it was he's not like he doesn't know that Tony Stark can become Iron Man, so
Mhm.
it didn't really. It felt like an effective plan of like this idiot. I'm just gonna get him, like I'm just gonna get him kidnapped,
Yeah.
and that's great. Like so the plan. I guess that's why for me the plan didn't feel that underwhelming because it was like, well, what I wouldn't expect him to have that much going into it, considering how he sees Tony,
Yeah.
and I mean, yeah, obviously that's his downfall is underestimating Tony, but uh, yeah. So I'm not saying let's put him at A. What about in the middle at B?
I think B is very appropriate for Ironmonger, to be honest with you, because yeah, it the design, like you said, is very comic accurate. It's just like, yeah, okay, it doesn't look nearly as cool as Iron Man's, but I'm like, he had those limitations that I think
Mm-hmm.
like another character gets into later on with like Mysterio and all that kind of stuff, the tech and all that. So he had those limitations, but it's to me the plan sucked. So I'd be very happy moving him to B tier for sure.
Okay, I'm done with that. So locked in B tier, great.
Yep, B tier villain.
Let's move on to Emil Blonsky, Abomination, Tim Roth. And keeping in mind, we're not truly gonna get into his She-Hulk stuff. It's just the movie.
Mm,
Uh, where would you put him at?
see,
Actually, you
I
know what?
had him
Never
at
mind. Never
B.
mind. I take that back. We said we have to take into account their arc. So
Right.
where would you put him?
So I had him at B because of the She-Hulk stuff. Like to me, he really became a different character altogether with She-Hulk, and
Mm-hmm.
it was actually really, really interesting to me how he was like that whole two-sided like, hey, I'm going to present myself this way, but then behind the doors still do villain shit and all that. Even though he wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to take over the world, he was doing a different kind of evil that's very incel-y and prevalent in today's culture. That to me is like wildly fun to watch and all
Uh,
that kind of stuff.
well, I also
So I
had him
had him
at
at B.
B. I also
Yeah,
had him at B. I think,
sweet.
like you, I was letting She-Hulk kind of uh, skew where I would put him because I think if it wasn't She-Hulk, the intensity and the ferocity he gave in uh, like Incredible Hulk would probably have made me be like, oh, he's at an A. Not for
Mhm.
his plan necessarily, but just in general the performance and like arc within that movie of being like, I thought I was the hero, and now I'm gonna like try and do whatever I
Yes.
can to keep being the hero. I thought that was really cool.
Hmm.
In a movie I don't like, but I thought like, oh, that's very interesting. And as you said, he is interesting in She-Hulk, but I think they kind of fumbled
Yeah.
the proper commentary on that because, as you said, yeah, he's presenting as this nice, enlightened guy, but he's still working with, for the lack of a better term, incels, and so he's not really doing the right thing. And
Hmm.
so you're just like, where does the show land on this? I know what they're presenting to me, but like it seems like they're saying, but he is a good guy, and I didn't think that really worked for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
No, yeah, to that point, I really like that whole like when people are like, "Oh, I'm a nice guy," I'm like, "See, this is why you don't trust nice guys. Like,
mm-hmm.
nice guys do it for a reason." And Emil Blonsky really did that to a good degree, but the show itself bundled it, but the concept driving behind it was really, really good. Yeah, so I'm glad we agree with Blonsky there at B tier.
I'm gonna go. Let's move to Thaddeus Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, whatever you want to call
Mm,
him, as played by William Hurt. As of now, obviously,
for
we
now,
know
until
we
Harrison
know
Ford
Harrison
takes
Ford
over.
will play him
Yeah.
if that movie ever gets start being made. But uh, I don't know. I could see him in C or D. I think that like he's just there, and I don't think they've ever really fully understood how to use him.
Hmm.
And maybe that changes with Thunderbolts, but it's like I said in Civil War when he's like, "You guys lost this." I'm like, "You did all the things they're talking about." Like the movie, like I understand that you could look at that as his hypocrisy, but the movie doesn't even give them a chance to be like, no, that's you. You did this. You did this shit too. You're in no place to talk. So he
Mhm.
just feels like a thing that they add to be like, yeah, remember, because he was in the Hulk, and it doesn't really feel like they're giving him anywhere to move or be an actual character other than someone to do something they need
Mhm.
in any given scene.
Yeah, it's Thunderbolt Ross to me is not he's not interesting enough yet. And yet being the operative word, right? I had him at C tier
Okay.
because it's just like cool, military guy that's just doing his job.
Okay.
That's to me, it's not that great. I mean, I could definitely be like, oh yeah, he's definitely D tier for now, but
What? So I will. As I said, I could see him at C or D. Which one would you rather?
ooh, probably D tier to be
Okay,
perfectly honest.
that's
Yeah,
that is fine with me.
I feel bad about putting people at the bottom, but of course,
I do not.
Thunderbolt
They're
is
not real.
definitely he's realistically there. Just especially because when we consider the fact that it's like, oh, he's responsible for the Thunderbolts. I'm like, is he though? Is he?
Well, this is
Because
the thing. I don't know what they're gonna do with him
Val
in
is
the
doing
movie.
it. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because I'm like Val's the one that's putting it together. So it's just
yeah,
like it's not exactly his plan. It's just his name attached to it. So
and
he
yeah,
probably
and
signed off on it.
unfortunately, yeah, like in the comics, it's not connected to his name, even though he's a part of it. It's not like they're like, yeah, it's because he's Thunderbolt Ross.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm fine with that. Thunderbolt Ross at D. Let's get into someone we talked about recently, Justin Hammer, as played by Sam Rockwell.
Hmm.
Where would you put him?
He's a C tier guy to me. He's
I'll be
just
honest with you, I had no strong opinions on him.
yeah.
It's just, yeah, I think he's very interesting in
Hmm.
Iron Man 2. Obviously, he just showed up in What If. Uh, but I think all you have there is the performance, really. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, if you like Sam Rockwell, and
Mhm.
I think most people do, then
I
yeah,
do like Sam Rockwell. He puts a
it is
lot into his
fun to
performance.
see him on screen,
Yep.
but by nature he's a bumbling idiot. Like I know that they
Yeah.
don't fully lean into that, but it's very clear like his stuff doesn't work and everything. Like it is there. I'm not saying it's subtext. It's like, yeah, no, he's not as good as Tony, and not just that, he's just
Hmm.
not good.
Hmm.
But it also kind of makes it like hard to go one way or the other. And so yeah, I'm fine with him being C tier.
Yeah, like when I thought about Justin Hammer, I could have been convinced to put him in a D tier too, because like the only memory I really have of him is like the test that Tony Stark pulls up on like the secure
Mm,
like in the UN kind of thing, or not the UN, the American embassy thing where he's getting grilled by the Americans and all the politicians. And it's just like, yeah, cool. It just snaps that guy's spine doing a 360. I'm like, yeah, if the only thing I can think of is incompetence, he doesn't belong higher than
he's a smooth talker though. I think that's it.
yes.
I think it's the performance because like yeah, he talks his way into suiting up War Machine. He talks his way
Hmm.
into like getting the next villain to not kill him. So
Hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Like he's incompetent, but that's not like necessarily a flaw in the character. That's like the point of the character. So I
Yeah.
have to. But it just means that yeah, if we're ranking on plans and stuff, his plans aren't really going to work out because everything he does doesn't really work out. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is just like yeah, like, and he looks like Sam Rockwell. He's not supposed. I know in the comics he's old, but like whatever. He
Yeah.
looks cool because he's Sam Rockwell, and
Hmm.
the performance is good. So I
Yeah.
can't go
It's
above a C, but I would
yeah.
put that at D. What are you okay with C or do you want to
I'm
go
okay
above?
with C. I mean, to me, it's like, what if that guy that made the Fire Festival was in the MCU? That's Justin Hammer to me.
Yeah, yeah. He's got the means. He just doesn't
Yep.
have the wherewithal to actually get it done
Yeah,
properly.
he's got the charisma, he's got the charm. He just doesn't have
But
anything
he has the
else.
money and material to get it done too.
Yep.
It's just yeah. Uh, all right, Ivan Vanko, Whiplash, is played by Mickey
Whiplash.
Rourke.
See,
I
I
mean,
I have him at
he
B tier.
he starts off strong. He gets
He
that drop
does.
of blood he wanted. That
Yep.
was always his plan.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think it's more the movie's fault that people might not think that his overall plan was a success because I think
Yes.
in general he was just trying to show that Tony Stark and the Starks in general are frauds. And I
Mhm.
think he does that, but then so much happens after the fact that and he gets beat that you're like, you kind of forget that his main point was still proven.
Yeah, he succeeds in that. It's just that everything
It
else
just goes
about
down in
him
flames.
yeah, he fumbles the everything else. It's just, but he does go like, oh yeah, he's Tony's a fraud. You shouldn't trust this guy. But it's not like it affects the world, right?
No,
It's just like
he has the one moment at Monte Carlo. No, is it Monaco? Where are they doing the races? Is it Monte
I don't
Carlo or
know, the
Monaco?
F1 race. Yeah,
Yeah, the race with unfortunately Elon Musk there. Yeah, he proves his point there initially, but I think even throughout the movie, like the fact that he's able to make like uh and I think he does inspire Tony. Like Tony's
Mhm.
has dialogue where he's like, "Yeah, you were right about that. I changed this and this." But then, as you see, he made like a whole fleet, and
Yes.
then the next movie that you see Iron Man, he's got a fleet as well, or he's iterating. So that's why I'm saying like it's hard to remember that he did accomplish what he said he wanted to. It's just
Mhm.
you're also like, but you. It's just everything that happens after you prove your point that you're like, yeah, I don't know, didn't
Yeah,
really work
and
out.
I'm a big fan of him just like manipulating Hammer in that sense. It's just like, I'm going to use your money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do anything that you ask me to do. I'm just going to do this because it's better and I'm going to make that decision myself.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, he's
it-
not really a puppet in that way. He did exactly
yeah,
what he wanted to do.
exactly. And I really respect him for it. But the movie itself fumbled it. Mickey Rourke looks great as Whiplash. I think that costume is actually pretty underrated for what it actually is. Because to me, I'm like, cool. You're going up against Iron Man, who's got the suit of armor, but then you're just like, no, cool. I'm gonna go pretty much shirtless and
I
just
just made
like
the
be a
arc reactor.
badass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
again,
it's
like
great.
part of his point. Like this is the power, this arc reactor, and it's what
Yep.
my dad made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that about it. Having said all that, I'd still put him at C. But like, where would you
Yeah.
put him?
I had him at B.
B?
I'm at B just because he was a fun guy to me. But like, yeah, you're
Okay.
right. He fumbles a lot. I could definitely see him at C. I don't have a problem putting him at C, but I had him at B because I'm just like, yeah, you didn't anyone that sticks it to their employer like that to me is like a little bit more interesting than a guy that's like a yes man that like,
Yeah.
oh, we did this together.
All right. You know what? I'm gonna go up to B then.
Sweet. All right. Next on the list, we got Loki himself.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
to me was very easy.
Go for it.
S tier.
So this is my thing. As a villain, I don't see him as S tier.
Really?
As a character, yes. If we were just saying as a character,
Right.
well, there's no doubt about it. This guy's S character, but as a villain, I'll be honest with you. I like his plan was just like I'm gonna annoy my brother, which I guess he did. But like,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
the only movie we've talked about this so many times. The only movie where I'm like this guy is a villain is Avengers.
Yes.
I think every other movie they are showing you like his frustration, and I still believe, yeah, like Odin needed to be taken out. Like that, he was the old guard. He was a part of a empirical system that needed to go.
Mhm.
Um, so in that sense, I agree with you. He's an S tier character. My
Mm.
whole thing is he an S tier villain?
You're probably right about that. I mean, like, he's got the look. He's
Yeah.
got the plans are, it was a pretty good plan that he had in Avengers. And you're right. He's the only time he's really a villain is in Avengers. Everything else, he's just being a hedonistic guy that's just like, I
Mhm.
want to do this and I want to listen to plays and I want to do these parties and all that kind of stuff. Well, and then neglect everyone else. So yeah, I could definitely see him bumped down as a villain, just purely as a villain, down to A tier because his redemption arc just really shifts him away from the whole concept of the villain, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. So yeah, let's
Uh,
go to A tier with him.
all right. Cool. I'm glad that was not a big fight. It wasn't ever going to be a big fight, but
No, it's never a big fight.
uh, but yeah, I would have had him firmly at A tier because
Yeah.
everything other than the fact that he's not truly a villain for most of his screen time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's head on over to Johann
Johann
Schmidt's
Schmidt.
Red Skull, as played by Hugo Weaving. You know what? I'm just gonna put him in there as well. The guy from
A tier?
no, the other guy
Oh,
from
the guy from
Walking
Endgame.
Dead. I can't remember his name now. Now I feel terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
The guy that's good at making himself look like other guys.
well, his voice really. I don't know if he even
Yes.
uses his face. He's great. He's great with his voice. Oh man, I don't have my phone on me. Otherwise, I'd look it up. But
Yeah.
he does the voice every time after
Mhm,
the initial first Avenger movie, as in
mhm.
Captain America: The First Avenger, not 2012. You said B. I'm fine with that. I think he's
I
really
had him
good.
at A
Oh,
actually.
A. Oh, I am a big Red Skull fan. If I'm
Yeah.
being honest, I think uh that first movie I really like. I know it's
Yeah.
not everyone's favorite, but I thought he was great in a good movie.
Mhm.
Um, just yeah, like he's what Steve would worry he would become,
Yes.
and I think that he's so steadfast in what he wants to do that you can't really knock him. And yeah, he doesn't win, but he also takes out the good guy with him in his first
Yes.
movie. Like so, like yeah, I would love to put him at A. And even when you see him later, he's not necessarily a villain, but he is like he's there, and he's a sign of bad things to come. Like it's not like he's less imposing
Mhm.
in that way. It's like, well, no, like he's here to give you some bad news, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing that like because to me I'm like Nazis. Yeah, that's definitely a villain for sure, a really
Hmm.
really good villain. But to me where it drops points is in Endgame or Infinity War. When you see him again, it's like this huge shock and it's awesome. But you're like, oh, cool, you're just the keeper and the guardian of this. It's just like
Yeah,
that
but
sucked a little bit.
I still feel like there's like a malevolence to him. But
Mhm.
you're right, like it's not it. He's not S tier. I just think he's really solid in his first movie, and then when you see him
Yes.
again, you're happy to see him, and he still has an interesting part in the first one. By the time you see him, or sorry, in Infinity War, by the time you see him in Endgame, you're like, yeah, I get what's going on here. At
Yeah.
least, but it's not like that makes it inherently bad. It's just you're not as excited because you're like, yeah, yeah, I get it. He's gonna tell them they have to lose or they have to kill someone. Got it. Um, Perfect. We can move on
Do we leave him
to.
at A or B?
I put him at A. Is that all right?
Sweet. Nice.
Perfect. Uh, so now we got Armin Zola, Toby Jones. I'll be honest. I think this is gonna be unpopular. I really like him too,
Hmm.
and especially in Winter Soldier. Like I
Yep.
feel like that was the perfect actual like Saturday morning villain like speech where he's like, "Oh no, you're coming down with me." I'm like, "Oh, this is great. I'm so glad they're leaning into this." But in the first movie, yeah, like he's got the great interrogation scene with Tommy
Hmm.
Lee Jones like over steak and milk. Like it's I really like him.
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
really know. Like, I guess his plan is just to survive at all costs, and he does it because then
He does
he
it. And
beca-
that's the
he becomes
crazy
part of the
thing.
computer system.
Right. And I really like Zola too. And the reason why is just because like during like real world, like World War II, after the Nazis and all that kind of stuff, a lot of the scientific science Nazis and all that kind of stuff got away with it and
Hmm.
kept doing messed up stuff in America and all that kind of stuff. So his his portrayal of that character, he's really, really good to me. And it's just the idea of like, yeah, he slipped by the bullet. Right? You know, like he's not gonna be in prison and all that kind of stuff. He's like, oh, you're so still so smart. We're gonna use you, and that's the Americans using him too.
Hmm.
It's a wildly good character, and there's so much nuance to it that I had him at A tier. The only reason I didn't have him at S tier is just because he doesn't actually pose a real threat to
No,
anyone. It's just he poses a threat to humanity, but not to the
like
heroes.
individual. Yeah, because he's not like that. Isn't really his goal. As I said, I feel like his plan is just like whatever makes it so that I get to see another day. That's what I'm
Yep,
doing,
yep,
and I can't knock him. Yeah, I wouldn't put him at S level either. I think he's A for sure.
yep. Sweet, nice, nice. The next one is Aldrich Killian, played by Guy
That's Guy
Pearce.
Pearce. Yeah. Look, I think if Shang-Chi never happened, I would have liked the character a bit more, just for how they dealt with the Mandarin of it all,
Yep.
and just being like, no, as in the comics, we know Mandarin is so tied to Tony Stark, and they're
Mhm.
like rivals, and this would make more sense as this guy who Tony slighted
Yep.
and made consider suicide is gonna come back and completely dismantle his world.
Yep.
And they even did the thing where he could spit fire. I know Mandarin doesn't necessarily spit fire, but like I thought it was a nice way of combining a bunch of comic book elements into one character. But then they're like, no, there really is a Mandarin, a Wenwu. So I was just like, oh, okay, well then I don't really care about this guy then.
Yeah, no, because you're right. Everything about him was very, very intelligent, right? The idea, and if Marvel had the guts to just stick to that version
Hmm.
of it, then I'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Have an alias that nobody would suspect is you,
Exactly.
and then also have you know Ben Kingsley's performance have like the guy that's like the puppet in front. It's brilliant. It's
Yeah,
really,
it's
really
really well
smart,
done.
and to have it grounded back into Iron Man's like origins and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense as opposed to just like, oh, he's a rival like weapons dealer. Like to
Hmm.
me, I'm like, why does that matter? It's silly. I the pullback was the thing that knocked him down to B tier for me.
I will not fight you on B tier. I had him at C, but I can put him at B. I think like
See, I originally had him at B, but then thinking about all the stuff that he did, I was just like, oh yeah, that's smart. He's really,
yeah,
really
no,
good. His
he's
plan was solid.
yeah. I can't knock him for Disney being like, we really want to get our Asian guy thing off. So
Yeah,
like, yeah, I'm fine with him at B. I
yeah,
think I wonder how people will feel about these. I feel like people think he's in a bad movie, so he's a bad character. But I really think
yeah. No,
the
that's not his fault.
no.
No, no whatsoever. But
Sorry,
yeah,
what's his name
B
again? Aldridge?
Aldrin or Aldrich
Is it Killian? Is that his
Killian.
last?
Killian's the last name
Okay,
for
great.
sure.
That's what I'm putting in.
Yeah,
Fake
Killian.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
B tier. Got him.
Next
Change
on
it
the
to
list,
Jillian.
we've got Malekith.
Yeah, this is F. I don't like. No one cares about this guy, and we even talked about it when we revisited Thor: The Dark World. He does something pretty big in killing Thor's mom, and I was just like, like he still doesn't feel like anything to me, and that's a big deal. Like that should
Mhm.
feel bigger, but he's such a like, and that does come down to performance. That the look is there. I think all he's got is look.
Yes, he's all
So
style, no substance. It to me is just the idea of it. There's no connection to that villain whatsoever.
because I
You
think
know.
even we talked about like that maybe even his plan is hypocritical, and the movie even points that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got nothing going from other than like, yeah, that looks cool. Like he looks cool, but I know
That's
the
a
actor
dark
certainly
troll.
doesn't like
Yeah.
yeah. What's his name again? Christopher Eccleston. I'm sure he's not worried about me putting him in FT there. He's probably like, I wish no one remembered I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm good with F tier. I had him at D tier because usually I see tier lists that don't go to F, but I definitely agree. He's an F tier villain. It's just not good. Um, it's not good. So yeah, F tier Malekith for sure.
uh, all right, we got what's his face, Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, Frank, as played by Frank Grillo.
Mm-hmm.
Look, when he showed up in Civil War, I was genuinely like, I mean, he might kill Captain America. I
Yes.
don't know where they're going with this. I know that wouldn't really make sense narratively, but I'm like, he's really coming, and he has his plan in Civil War. I know he shows up in Winter Soldier first, but like
Mm.
anything I like about him is from Civil War, where I was just like, holy shit, like this guy came prepared. Like
Yeah.
everything about what he's doing is tactically breaking down Captain America's defenses, and then even when it looks like he's going down, he knows exactly what to say to like
Yep.
get out of the situation. Like, and he did what he needed to do in that situation. He made them look bad, and he took out a bunch of people.
Yep. Yep. I agree. He's a great, great villain. I just don't we don't see enough of him. I
Hmm.
think he looks amazing.
Yeah,
Like
both
his
looks
outfit
for him. If
is
I'm being like, even before he like gets burnt up and puts on the mask, I think like both looks for Crossbones are good.
yeah, because Frank Grillo himself, he's got that gruffness that's just like,
Hmm.
yeah, no one really believes that you're a good guy. Like no one
Yeah,
believes
yeah,
it.
you are like, huh. I can't wait for them. I mean, obviously, you know he's Brock Rumlow, so as if you know the comics, like you know he's not a good guy. But if you
Yep.
didn't know, then you still would be like, are we supposed to trust this guy? I don't know about this.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think he's strong, but we don't see a lot of him. But based on what we talked So that obviously goes against him in terms of arc, but in terms of plan, look, and performance, he's all there.
He's all there. He's an A tier villain to me. The only it's not his fault. He just doesn't get enough screen time to
And I
expand.
know
But
he's complained about it, like the
yeah,
actor.
oh, everyone's complained about it. Everyone was like, "We want more Crossbones." It was just a shame that he got killed off in the first part of
I
Avengers
mean,
2 and all
the
that kind of
thing,
stuff.
like, I don't mind because of how long we were into the MCU, but yeah, like,
Yep.
it's like the Batman v Superman problem of like, once you do Civil War, like that's pretty much the best thing you can do with Crossbones.
Yeah,
Like, he's not gonna get better than that.
that's true. He would just pop up in weird things, just kind of like
And I
how
like when he shows up again in Endgame. Like that's such a great scene to show how Steve has
yes.
learned.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
to go
absolutely.
straight for Hail Hydra. Like let's just cut to the chase here. Hail Hydra, don't worry about it. I got
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. Where'd
all
you have
right.
him?
Who's next? Let's see. It's Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford. I like Alexander Pierce. I'm gonna be honest with you. Specifically, the scene where his like maid shows up and he's like, "Oh, that's too bad. I didn't want to have
Mhm.
to kill you," and then he does. And you're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's not fucking around."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into Pierce. I think he's great. He's just one of those guys that just doesn't mess around, like you said. He's just pure evil. And
Yep.
yeah, I think he's A tier. Like it's not his fault he doesn't have like and I think the thing
He
he doesn't
showed
have
up
a
more than I
suit,
thought
he
he
doesn't have
would.
all this kind of stuff. It actually makes him stronger because it's just like, yeah, you don't need that kind of crap to be a real threat to humanity.
Exactly.
So A tier, I think he's an A tier villain.
You'll get no fight from me on that. I agree. All right, Ronan the Accuser, as played by Lee Pace.
I think we're gonna have a bit of a debate here,
You like him?
but I like him.
Okay. I have him at D, but go for it.
So I have him at like B tier. I like him a lot. Just because like for some reason I really like villains that are like teenage angsty,
Hmm.
and he definitely embodies that for sure. I think his look is great. I think like a lot of his stuff, like when you first see him come out of the ground and he's naked and all that kind of stuff, you're just like, whoa, what's going on here?
I feel like
This
that's
is
the most I like him though.
oh
Him getting
yeah.
ready. That's the most I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go, buddy.
Yeah, I didn't have him like A tier or anything like that because he definitely wasn't. But like, I think B tier was what I ended up going with. But you had him at D.
Yeah, I think for someone who shows up again and you're kind of just like, I don't like when he shows up in Captain Marvel, I'm like, so like I don't care about this guy. Like it wasn't one of those things where like we've talked about where like Pierce shows up again and you're like, oh, sick, or uh, uh Brumlow shows up again and you're like, sick. Like even someone like Zola. Like I didn't feel like energized by seeing him again. I was just like, yeah, I guess he's gonna show up.
Yeah,
I don't really understand. To be clear, I understand he's just mad at the Kree. No, wait,
yep.
he's Kree. Was he Kree? What? Yeah, he's Kree, right?
He's Kree.
Who's he mad at then?
He's mad
The
at
Xandarians.
Xandarians for
Sure.
living their
So,
cushy lifestyle
yeah, I
and all that
mean,
kind of stuff.
yeah, I think he's a bit too one note. There's another one coming up who's one note, but I just felt like they did him better. So and it's the same director, so I can't even be
Mhm.
like, oh, like they just depends on who's handling it. It's the same person handling a similarly one note villain who I think just put a lot more care into them. This one, uh he doesn't have to be D. I just think he's just not he didn't really have any staying power with me.
You're right. And the problem is when you see him in Captain Marvel again, he's like a weaker, younger version of himself too, which you're even less excited about because you see him in
Hmm.
his highest form in the beginning and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I just did like the idea that when you see that scene with him and Thanos, he's just like he's spewing off all his like politics and all that kind of stuff. And that adds to the angst to
Hmm.
me is like so I really enjoyed the performance of it all. But yeah, I can definitely see why B tier would be a bit too high for him.
So I'll throw
Move
this
him,
out
let's
once
move him
if
down.
you can reject it. You okay with C or do you want to just put him at B?
I'm good at C. I'm good at
Okay.
C. You made some good points. He's so single one note. He just I think it's one of those things where I look back on it, I'm like, oh, okay, you're the villain of a movie that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah,
So I probably like had rose tinted glasses there, but you're essentially, if I'm being objective with it, it feels like they're in two separate movies because of how the Guardians are so silly and goofy and all that kind
yeah.
of stuff. And
Like
his plan
even the
didn't even
dance
involve
scene
the
at the
Guardians.
end when he's like, What are you doing?" I was just like, I feel like this is indicative of how different movies they're in. Like,
Yes.
I understand that that would always be the point that he would be like, "What are you buffoons doing?" But I feel like almost every other villain they've faced is at least in the same vibe as them, where that comes off a bit better. That really did feel like they were just pitching two ideas together.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, how do we be silly here? And just, he's yeah, it's definitely C tier stuff that he would actually be distracted by that as opposed to be like, well, I've got the Power Stone. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Earth. That's what I wanted to do. I'm just gonna do my thing now instead of watch you gyrate your hips.
Yeah, like
Start
there was not enough. I don't want to say nuance, but I don't think there was enough of humanity there for me to believe
yeah.
that he would take a minute to be like, "Wait, what are you doing?" I think he'd
Mhm.
be like, "I've got what I needed." The same way he was so bullish with Thanos, it feels like he would be bullish in that scene too. I don't think
Yeah.
he'd be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I knock him down to C tier for sure.
All right. Korath, as played by Jaimon Hansu. I'll be honest, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care
Don't.
about him. I had him at D. I could
Sure.
easily see him being at F. But Korath to me was just like, you're just a bounty hunter, dude, and you
Yeah,
don't get that much. So
he's got a great line. Like he's got the great like
yeah,
who like that's great. But other than that, I'm just like I don't care.
yeah, it's overcasted to have Digimon Hansu play him for sure. Because
Yeah.
I love Digimon. He's so great. Um, but yeah, him playing Korath was probably I probably would have had him at F tier if it
Okay.
wasn't him.
I can put him there. I don't care.
Yeah, let's
Not a,
do it. Let's do that. It was severely underutilized actor for that role. F tier, Korath. Next
the
one is the
collector,
collector.
Benicio del Toro.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I would put him at D. I don't even really think he's actively trying to do. He is doing bad things. There's no doubt about it.
Mhm.
But he's really just kind of like, oh right, like they brought the Power Stone to me. I'll take that. Like, and
Yeah.
that's like I think he's interesting when I see him. I've never been bored with one of his scenes, but I'm also just like, you're not really doing much for me. I have him at D.
Yeah. I had him at C because I was like, all right, you're not really a villain here at all. Like, sure, yeah, you're enslaving people and all that kind of stuff, but you're collecting stuff. It's weird
Well, I mean, he's
in
not
that
just
sense.
collecting stuff. He's collecting living human or like
Well,
living
yeah,
beings.
living people, he's enslaving things and all that kind of stuff. But it's not like I want to collect the entire species or the entire race. It's just like, oh, okay, I need Groot, I need this, and I have Howard the Duck. It's evil stuff, but at the end of the day, it poses no real threat. And then you see him in What If, and you're like, oh yeah, that's when he's actually a villain. But it's a What If episode,
Yeah,
so
I forgot he was in What If. That's the one where he's got all the powers.
yeah, he's got all the stones
Yeah,
and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff because nobody challenged. There was nothing higher than him because they took Thanos out of the picture. But I'm just like, all right, well, that's the only time you're actually a villain.
Sea
But
level. Yeah, I still feel like D for me. I'm just like I feel like
yeah, all right.
comparatively, like yeah. I won't get into it. I think D for me just because I'm just like you're not you. What you're saying to me makes him less than like it's like, and I
Hmm.
think we've said the same thing basically, which is like he's kind of just doing his own thing and not really affecting anything other
Yeah,
than the lives of the people he's collecting, which makes him evil. But we're talking about evil people, like, but yeah,
yeah,
that's gonna happen on this list.
absolutely.
Um, so you okay at D or do you want him at
I'm good
C?
at D with him for sure.
Got it,
Yeah.
got it, got it. All right. Let's see here. We've got Thanos, is played by
Yes,
Josh Brolin.
sir.
I think we can both agree this is S level.
This is an S tier guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he had anything lower. His plan was amazing.
yeah.
His design was incredible. Like I think at one point when we reviewed it, I'm just like, why does he take off his armor? And I'm like, when we first see him, I'm like, oh right, because he's getting cocky because he's got all the stones and all that kind of stuff. He's just like able to wear his like Under Armour shirt or whatever it
Hmm.
is. It adds to that design to me. It's just and his plan. I mean, even now, people still debate whether or not he was right. And the idea of like that little piece of graffiti showing up in Hawkeye being like Thanos wasn't wrong or something like that, or Thanos was right. I'm like, yeah, this is a good villain. This is a
He's
really
great.
good
I
villain.
mean, he had a plan. He stuck to it. He
Yep.
sacrificed what he needed to sacrifice to get the plan to work.
Hmm.
And yeah, like as you said, even when you get to Endgame, the Thanos we had been following still, like when he died, he's like, "Yeah, I got nothing else to do. Go ahead, you can do whatever you want." He wasn't like, "No, please don't." It's just like, no, like that guy did exactly what he wanted to do, and really
Yep.
was like, I got nothing else left to give you, so
Yeah.
bye."
I'm just a farmer now. I've
Yeah.
accomplished my goals. If you kill me now, it'll be there's nothing.
And I think
Like,
that's what I respected because I'm like, oh, so it
yep,
isn't about power for him. He really was like, no, I just need to balance things, and I did it. So
yep.
I'm done.
Yeah, it's you see the full villain arc, you see the build up. There's so much about Thanos that was done very, very well. S tier. I'm glad we both agree on that.
Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen. So this is an interesting one because she starts a villain and then ends a villain. Because
Yep.
as of now, she's dead. So we don't like. I think we both assume she's coming back, but as of now, she's
Yeah.
dead. So we have seen a full arc for her at this
Hmm.
point.
So I have her at S tier. I
Honestly, I
really,
will
really
fight
do.
you on that.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
she's such an interesting character. I didn't really care about her until WandaVision, but like
mhm.
even retroactively, WandaVision made some stuff like in Ultron great, and she's got some moments in Civil War. But like, yeah, I think uh, even Endgame, like the whole "you took everything from me." He's like, I don't even know who you are. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is some good stuff here. Uh, yeah, I definitely am good with her at uh S tier. I think.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind she's an S tier villain. Like when people are like, "Oh, she made the switch so fast to be evil," multiverse of madness. I'm like, were you not paying attention to all the other stuff that she's been in? This buildup is the most amazing thing from a psychological
Hmm.
perspective, right? Born in trauma as a villain, then being a people pleaser, and then being like, no, it's all about me. It's a great written arc for her, and she's well designed, and
Hmm.
she even. I love the fact that she advocated for no, we got to get the comic accurate version in that episode of WandaVision for Halloween, where she's like, "Yeah,
Mm.
I'm wearing this," and all, like, kudos to that. I think she did really, really good, and yeah, S tier villain to me.
I'm
But
glad we
I
agree
agree,
on
she's coming back. She's definitely coming back.
yeah.
She ain't dead.
Ultron, James Spader. I have him at A. I think I don't like. I understand his plan was you got to get rid of the Avengers. They are the ones that are causing the issues. Like
Mhm.
the and humans in general are going to ruin this planet. So his logic is distorted. Like the same logic as Thanos. Really, like I'm like I see how you got there. I
Mhm.
can't tell you. I can tell you came to the wrong decision, but I understand how you got to that decision.
Yeah.
And I thought he looked cool, and I like James Spader as him. I thought it all worked together for me, and I'm sure people would have liked him to happen longer, but I think that's as much as I would take from him. Just a
Mhm.
movie, so that even the arc felt good to me. Of like, yeah, and then you're gonna get taken out by Vision.
Yeah. Yeah. I had him at A tier as well. Um, his design is great. Everything about him is amazing. James Spader as Ultron is it's such a perfect voice for
Hmm.
that character. It's just so perfect. Um, everything about Ultron to me was great, and his plan was awesome. It worked to a big, big degree, right? He almost succeeded. But yeah, I just love the idea of like he spent 5 seconds on the internet and it's like, yeah, the world has to die. That's
Hmm.
that's what we have to do. It,
That's
he
how we
jumps
keep
it,
this safe. Get rid
yeah,
of these people.
yeah. He jumps it really, really quick and all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, A tier.
Darren Cross, Yellow Jacket.
Oh
I know
boy.
he becomes someone later. We'll get to that later. But as
Yeah.
played by Corey Stoll, I don't care. I would put him at C. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I wherever you want to put him, I'm fine. I don't have strong opinions on this. I think he fits the movie. It's like you could go crazy doing this shit. He goes crazy doing this shit. So I do appreciate when you have like the cautionary thing for our hero of like this is what could happen to you. Just as contrast, but he's not. I feel like the most I feel scared of him is when he is out of the suit and just being like, "I came to your house. Like, what do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this guy needs to go." Like that. That I don't like that energy at all. So it's a
Mhm.
good performance, but it's just more like once he's Yellow Jacket, I'm like, they'll get him. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not that worried.
it's not a character I have a huge amount of uh I don't have a lot of opinions about him other than that he's good. It's fine. The suit was cool.
Yeah,
That's about it. And you know his plan didn't succeed because he was like, oh, imagine an army of yellow jackets and all that kind
no,
of
he
stuff.
did. Yeah, he was not able to get his plan off the ground,
Nope, he was not.
and he
And
was always behind because he thought Hope
yeah,
was on his side.
yeah. And I'm just like, how do you not? How are you actually trusting Hope in this situation? It's like she's the daughter of the guy that you know you're angsty against and all that kind of stuff with your
Yeah.
daddy. How do you honestly trust her? Like this is silly to me. It's a bad judgment. So I had him at C for
Okay.
sure.
Perfect. We agree. C
Mhm.
level or C tier.
Zemo.
Zemo. I'm gonna say S tier. I'm sure I'll
Yes.
get pushback. I'm like,
No pushback. I love
to
Zemo.
me, I'm like, yo, this guy, his plan worked,
Yeah.
and not only that, his plan worked. He destroyed the Avengers, and then they had to go get help from him.
Yeah. It's awesome. He's
Like,
so good.
it worked out perfectly for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he does so much behind the scenes. He just it's wildly good. It's so good what he does. And so to me, the biggest thing is like you think that there's going to be the showdown at the end with all the other super soldiers that he
hmm
finds and all. No, he just puts bullets in all of them, and I'm just like,
He's like, yeah, I'm not.
I
We're
respect him
not
even
doing that.
more.
It's you guys.
Yeah. And it's like I hate super people, so why would I even use them? Just boom, shot to the
It's
head.
yeah. I know people are like,
It's
oh,
wild.
how did he know all these things? I'm like, I don't care, man. This is like what like look what the main point of this is
Yes.
that these two need to fight
Hmm.
because that will be what doesn't repair. They'll
Hmm.
if they have a common enemy in me, they'll always get over whatever inconvenience happens. And I
Yep.
need to break them up. And so yeah, like his plan works because whether or not Tony and Steve are friends by that final showdown, Tony's gonna go to Steve either as a friend to help, which he does, or to be like, "That's where he is. I'm going to kill him."
Yep.
Like, I don't really understand when people are like, "Oh, like how did he know they'd be there at the same time?" Like, because that he studied them and he knows either he's gonna go there as a friend, which he did,
Hmm.
and then I can still break the news to him, or he'll already know and be like, "I'm going there to kill him,"
Yep.
and then I don't need to show him anything.
Yep.
But there it is. Like that's the plan.
Yeah, the brilliance of the character to be like an empire that crumbles from within permanently stays down. And it's true because that gap of time between Civil War and like Infinity War, like Steve Rogers is just completely out of the picture, right? And it's wild to me that it's like, yeah, the Avengers broke up. And you know, it's so good. It's so incredibly good what he does. And
Yeah.
like you said, that they need help from him again in the future amazing stuff. So he's an S tier villain to me for sure.
All right.
Brilliant.
Carl Mordo or Baron Mordo as Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say D, not F, only because he has a point.
Yes.
He doesn't get to act on it because they decided in the second movie they didn't want him to be a villain
Yeah.
necessarily. He just wasn't really. He's in it, but like from an alternate universe. But
Mhm.
like the first movie, he's not a villain either. But he does the terrible things at the end, like in the post credits, where you are
Mhm.
just like, yeah, man, like the whole time he's telling you stop fucking around. You need to respect this.
Mhm.
and he's not respecting it. So I'm like, he's got a point. He just doesn't get to do anything about it. So that's the only reason I
Yeah.
don't have him at F. I'm just like, look, if they actually cared to invest in him, he probably would have been way more interesting, but
Mhm.
they didn't. But at least they gave me that kernel of this guy's got a point.
Yes. It's hard to argue with him too. And like toward the end is like, yeah, I'm leaving this thing and I figured out what the problem is. There's too many wizards and all that kind of stuff. And he just goes around killing them. I'm like, yeah, this is sick. The lack of follow through
Well,
is
just yeah, he's like, no, I thought we
terrible.
were all on the same page. I'm finding out everyone's just doing whatever they want. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the idea of someone that believed in something so much only to watch it not be the case and then him just going evil. But you're right. The only reason I don't have him any lower is because like I don't have him higher or anything like that. It's just he, they do a complete 180 for him in multiverse, and I'm just like that sucks. He's such an important character.
I mean, he still hates him in that, but you're just kind of like, well, this is more of an inconvenience for Doctor Strange than an
Yes.
actual like thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I guess
So
he is still on the good guy team in that, like, he's still part of the Illuminati.
yeah. He's not a villain
And
by then. He's just like,
no,
yeah, I've always just been jealous of you, and now I get to exact my aggression towards
and
it
to
or
be
something. Or
fair to
it
him,
broke.
in that universe, they've already realized, like, oh, Doctor Strange is a villain. Like, he needs to be taken out at
Yes.
all costs.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like comparatively, you're not so bad. Yeah, I had him at like I had him at originally at C, but yeah, I see him at D now, a
All
lot
right,
better.
Casalius, Mads Mikkelsen. I
Yikes.
also have him at D. I don't know. Like, I'm just like, I he's got cool moments, so I don't have him at F. But I'm just like, I don't really. I don't know. I don't know. I can be convinced to put him higher. I just for me, I'm like, I don't really remember any other than the funny thing I like uh when he's like, "What's your name?" and Doctor Strange says, "It's strange," and he's like, "It's not that strange." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that
Uh,
was funny, but I don't really care about him, and I don't miss him.
yeah. I had him at F tier. I think he was the look was just plain. It was just like, oh, cool, you belong to this cult and everyone
Yeah,
dresses
those
like that.
eyes. Okay,
The
I'm putting him
eyes
at
were kind
F.
of
I don't
cool.
care.
Yeah, I have him at F just because I'm like, oh, you just did Mads Mikkelsen so dirty. He's such a good villain, and then you just wasted him, burned him off like that. And now there's like, I kind of want him as Doctor Doom. I think that'd be cool, but we'll see.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen, but it probably will.
Yeah,
Dormammu.
Dormammu.
I'm also putting
Yikes.
that at F because it's like he didn't. I think I think they said Benedict Cumberbatch did the face capture for that. I'm trying to say who the actors are in these situations, but like
Right.
he doesn't really talk. I think that still could have been Benedict Cumberbatch just doing sounds, and
Hmm.
I know he did the face. I put him at F because it's like he didn't really have a plan. He just got roped into this thing and then fell for it right away. Like all, I mean, obviously it took time, but it was just like he's just such a non-factor. And then
Yeah, he's the
you're
non-factor.
not like, oh, Dormammu's gonna get his revenge. It's just like it doesn't really matter. Other than I know, I almost called her Catherine Zeta-Jones. Charlize Theron is his daughter,
Yep.
but who knows if they're ever gonna pick up on that thread.
Yeah.
And in the
I
comics,
don't know.
she's not a villain. She just is his wife. Like they get
Right.
married. Like it's not like you're gonna be like, oh no, she's here to trick him and get revenge for her dad, like Talia al Ghul. It really is just like that's a bit of tension in an otherwise fine.
Yeah. Dormammu's the only thing I like about Dormammu is his face. Like I like the idea that his face just constantly shifted him. But I'm like, dude, you're a god that just got annoyed into giving up. Like that
Yeah.
sucks. And he didn't have a plan. It was Casilius's plan the entire
Mm-hmm.
time to like let him out. And Dormammu was just like, all right, cool, I'm trapped here. I'll just stay here. And like, someone is gonna let me out. And he doesn't do anything. He's a crappy villain. And when you see him, you're like, oh, Dormammu's here. And then you're like, oh, that's what they did with him. That's
Yeah, it's no good.
unfortunate. Yeah. But
Uh,
yep. No arguments for me. I have him at F tier.
Ego, Kurt Russell. I'm sure
Ego.
I'll have him higher than you. I have him at A.
Oh no, I have him at A too.
Okay. I think for everything it means for uh, Peter,
Mhm.
he's such an interesting character, and I thought like obviously we know he's a bad guy, but I was really intoxicated by him at first. I was like, yeah, man,
Mhm.
like this is a great Kurt Russell performance, and they did end up showing him as the planet. Like they went for it and showed
Mhm.
him in full ego form. They didn't cheat and just go, no, it's just Kurt Russell, just deal with it. Like I think they
Yeah.
went for it, and it had it like yeah, he's so important to that story of like you don't have to run after the love from your dad if you've got all these other father like you've got the other father figure there who actually was there for you.
Yeah.
um and he killed his mom, which is wild.
Yeah, he killed all the moms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
His plan itself was just like, yeah, this is like the destructiveness of what a fuckboy can do.
Hmm.
But he's a great villain. I think he's really, really good. People like hark on him a lot because like, oh, you didn't know that he was a villain until the end. I'm like, that's your fault. That's not. It's got
Yeah,
nothing to
you
do
should
with
have
him. You
known
should have
that going
seen he
into
was
it
a bad
for
guy
sure.
the entire time. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
really like Ego. It's Russell. His hair always looks fantastic. So,
Hmm.
good on him for that. And he just does a really good job. And I like the fact that he's what it means for Peter too.
Yeah.
Uh, it's there's a lot of complexity there with daddy issues. And as um She-Hulk points out, a lot of daddy issues in the
Yeah,
MCU.
there's gonna be a
He
lot of
gives
them.
a good reason for why. He's an A-tier villain for me.
Then we've got Aisha as Elizabeth, played by Elizabeth Debicki. uh I like her. I would put her at B. I don't. She's not quite A or higher for me, but I thought like because she's supposed to just be an inconvenience in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, she serves her purpose. But then she does end up making her Adam, and
Mhm.
so at least that part worked out for her until it didn't,
Mhm.
because she got all the things. So that's why I have her at B. But I enjoyed her and the Sovereign in
Yeah.
general, and I definitely like the look. It's a very
Yeah.
striking look.
Yeah, it's good. I think she looks so good. The design and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to put her at A, but objectively I can't just because I'm like, oh, you're just driven by pride the entire
Yeah.
time. Like that sucks. It's not a
And so
plan.
yeah,
It's
so
just
you're
we
never
got to get
like, oh, she's
revenge.
got this plan. You're just like, oh, you're just reacting to things.
Yeah, it's not good. And the only time she has a plan is like, I'm gonna create Adam Warlock. And then once Adam Warlock is created, it's just like, wait, you didn't even bother training him at all. He literally just came out of the womb and you're just like, go mess shit up. And you're like,
Hmm.
go destroy the
And
Guardians.
it
I'm
wasn't
like,
even her plan to do that. That
yeah,
was someone else's that we'll get to.
yeah,
So it's again like no proactive stuff. It's just
yeah.
like she is like she is someone to be reckoned with if you piss her off, but
Hmm.
like you also might never have to deal with her if you never cross her path. Like if you
Yeah,
never
it's
cross it.
it's literally like that. It's just like, okay, the scary people at the like golf clubs or yacht clubs or something like that. You don't want to cross them, but they'll leave you alone. They'll stay out of
Yeah.
your way, but you don't want to cross them. That's not a real character. That's not a real villain to me. But it's just like, okay, cool. You've got a temper on you, which I like, and I like her design, and I like the execution of the character. But it can't be A for me.
No.
I had her
No.
B.
B it is. All right, Adrian Toomes, Vulture. We might disagree on
I
this. I only have him at A.
had him at S.
So here's my thing. When we take into consideration his arc, I'm
Yeah,
like, what the fuck are we
I knew
doing
that
with
was.
this? Like,
I knew that
this
was going
is
to come up.
truly, you truly have messed with a very good thing here.
Yep. Damn you, Sony. 'Cause to me, I thought Adrian Toomes A looks incredible, right? His
Hmm.
that design of
I
the
don't like
vulture.
the design in the comics, so what they did for the movie, I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, they did it. They got there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea that they took away that whole like, oh, I'm gonna take youth from younger
Hmm.
people, like that supernatural aspect of it that was never really great in my opinion.
Yeah, like it's
Um,
fine for the cartoon, but I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to watch that in real life.
Yeah, that looks silly. Like it would feel like it's in the wrong movie. It
Hmm.
feels like you'd be like a Doctor Strange villain or something like that. But Vulture to me was I had him at S because A, Keaton, but B, the idea of like your plan was to operate under the radar. It wasn't to do any, it was to me one of the best villains because of that. It's just like
He's got a
let's
point. He had a good plan, but
yeah,
he went overboard as well,
he
right?
he
Like
went overboard.
he didn't stick to his own plan
Yep.
because he started expanding. He brought people in that maybe he didn't expand, but he was expanding in terms of letting people get in his ear about the ambition they should be having in terms
Yep.
of that. So while yes, on paper he had a good plan, in practice he didn't stick to his guns, and
Mhm.
that was mostly his undoing. Other than going up against
Yes.
Spider-Man, which you're not going to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really was like just for the next villain we talk about, like the inclusion of that kind of speaks to how he wasn't really on top of things.
He definitely let his emotions run wild and all that kind of stuff, but which I get because I'm like, oh, your enemy is dating your daughter. Like, yeah, okay, I can understand you like
All of that
throwing the
stuff
book
works
out the
for me.
window.
I think it's more just knowing that like he got out of pocket, and so I can't really
Mm.
put him at S level because it's like for me anyway. I'm like the people we have at S level, them expanding actually worked out for them, whereas for
Right.
him it was like didn't really work out for you, so you weren't
Yeah.
really ready for it that way. Like you knew what your limitations were and you still went.
Yeah, you tried to go to the big
And
leagues.
then the whole Morbius of it all, I'm just like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even I'll be honest, even the post credit in Homecoming, I was just like, eh. In retrospect it's just like, well, we didn't really do anything with this, did we? Just
No, we
feels
didn't.
like we're dropping the ball, and
Yeah.
the more time passed, the more I'm like, you can't convince me he's less than an A. But it is just like he's just not.
He's not quite there as
He
an S.
hasn't been used effectively in terms
Yeah.
of S tier for me.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The thing I really liked about him was like, yeah, when you stuck to your own plan, you operated under the radar and you got away with it for like a decades and all that kind of stuff, and it
Mm-hmm.
worked. The moment you betrayed yourself was that everything fell apart. And I think you're right. The inability for him to scale up is a knock on him for sure. Yeah, A tier.
All right, we are at Herman Schultz, aka Shocker, as played by Bokeem Woodbine. I didn't count the other guy; like he was always just gonna get killed off or whatever.
Yeah.
Bokeem Woodbine, I think I have him at D because I'm just like he is. I genuinely felt for Spider-Man when he had to face him. Like he was
Mhm.
still a threat. I like Bokeem Woodbine, but obviously he's a he wasn't built to last.
No, it's yeah, I had him at C.
Honestly, I'll put
You
him
know,
at C. I won't argue with that. It's
I
just
mean, like C or D makes sense to me because I'm just like, if you compare to the comic design, he doesn't look good. You know, he's just like, oh, cool, you got the appendage.
they did not try to make it look comic accurate. You're
No,
right,
they didn't. It
but
sucked.
it made sense for who he was working for. The guy that didn't really want to like because he can't fly above people. It makes sense that it would be like, all right, like you just have the weapons.
Yeah,
That's all you got. And
yeah,
I like that Adrian talks about that when he's like, oh, like, and you're going around calling yourself the Shocker. Ooh, what is this wrestling? That was
Mhm.
the first Shocker that gets killed, but it makes sense that Bokeem Woodbine would take that on and be like, all right, so we're not doing the supervillain thing then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. D tier makes a lot of sense for me. For him,
I'm
he didn't
sorry, I
have a
talked
plan.
about
He
him
was just a
C tier,
henchman.
and
Oh,
then I said
C?
I was saying I would find putting him at C, but up to you.
Yeah, to me, because if plan's a part of this, he didn't have a plan, and
No,
that's a huge knock on him. He was just
he
like,
had the
"Oh,
one
cool,
plan. I'm going to the school and I'm gonna beat the shit out of him, and he did that. But then he still lost. Like he did beat him up, but he didn't take him out of commission.
yeah, yeah." That's why I'm like,
All right, D tier it is.
yeah, cool. E tier. Who else we got next? The Grand Master, played by Mr. Jeff Goldblum.
So I love spending time with Grandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still gonna put him at a B.
Yep.
I think much like Vulture, he knows what he needs to do, and fortunately for him, he sticks to it. But
Yep.
what you see in Thor Ragnarok, once he tries to like actually get a bit more aggressive about his ambitions, it kind of crumbles for him.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I don't love the performance, I don't love the look, but in terms of the plan, which is just run my planet, it's not not like inspiring stuff. It's not inspiring stuff. It's just like, yeah, yeah, I guess you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
You do evil things. There's no doubt about it. All of the people on this list at some point does something evil, but you are
Mhm.
just kind of like, it for me. B is taking into consideration the look and performance.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, his plan is like it's a CD
Hmm.
kind of situation, but his look and just Goldblum himself, I'm just like, yeah, this is what I want from Goldblum performances. Just be yourself and weird in the context of it. It's great, you know? So I have him at B.
Okay,
Yeah, that works for me.
perfect. We did it. We got through Grandmaster.
Next on the
Uh,
list is Hela.
yeah. Hella is played by Kate Blanchett. I would put her at A. I think
Yep.
she. I mean, she doesn't win, obviously, but
Mhm.
I do think that her point and her. I mean, the execution up until it doesn't work is pretty good.
Yeah.
Just how confident she is. She's not
Mhm.
like worried about what people. I mean, she makes the joke of like, "I was hoping you'd give me a bit more of applause," but once she realized like, "Oh, so it's like that," then fuck you all.
Mhm.
Uh, it went well until it didn't. So
Yes.
I would put her at, what I say, A.
Yeah, I have her at A as well. Just because I'm like, the only reason her plan didn't work out is because Thor did something that no one would have expected Thor to do, which is, yeah, okay, let's destroy Asgard with
Mm-hmm.
Surtur and all this kind of stuff, right? It just up until then, I was convinced that Hell is actually going to win this.
I was convinced she was going to come back, which she did in What If, but obviously
Yep.
not the Hela we know because that Hela is dead. Like I remember after we did that, I was like so convinced, like nah, she'll be Death in Infinity War for sure.
Yeah.
And that is how much I liked her. But they gave us the complete arc.
Yeah.
They
It was
did
a good
well.
arc. I like the idea of like only Odin's magic was keeping that evil at bay kind of deal. She reappears and just like, hey, I'm gonna take what's rightfully mine, and the idea of like, what else do you want me to do? This is what you born and raised me for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why wouldn't I be this evil? She's great. Yeah, A tier. And oh God, Kate Blanchett just looks amazing in that crown thing.
It's a
It's
good
so
look. It
cool the
is
way she
definitely
like
a good design.
does that hair thing and then the crown's up. I'm like,
I like
oh,
in What
this
If
is
when she tries to do it and it doesn't work, and she's like,
yep.
"Wait, what? No, hold on a second."
It's like, hold on, the crown's coming back. No, it's so good. Hell is a A tier villain to me.
Then we have Surtur as played by Clancy Brown, which I would have skipped if he didn't show up like in What If as well.
Yeah.
It felt like they were like, no, this guy's important to this. Uh Having said that, it's like I can't see him above a C or a D.
Yeah, I had him at C.
Sure,
At
I'm
C.
because he's a threat, obviously, and he does take out the whole of Asgard.
Yep.
Like, it's not like just because he's not real, and that was his plan.
That was his
Realistically,
plan. You're
it's like,
right.
yeah, no, like this is what I wanted to do. So yeah,
Yeah. You
it's
never
just
understand why he wants to destroy Asgard. Like I never that's
yeah,
never clear to me.
you're not invited to engage with him beyond that's the person that's going to ruin Asgard, and he
Yeah.
does it. But because you're not invited, he's not. Yeah, as I said, he's not more than a C or D, so we'll put him at C.
Yeah. I like the design of the character. I think it's awesome.
And I
There's some
like
great
Clancy Brown as
moments.
a voice actor.
Yeah, there's some great moments with her. Is like, oh no, that's my crown. It's like I thought that was just her head. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's my crown. And I'm like, this is hilarious. This is
See,
great.
like stuff like that where like there's joking going on, but I wasn't like, no, Surtur wouldn't do that. It's just like they set it up top so that like
Mhm.
anything menacing he does, you're like, oh shit, okay, it's serious now. But like you understand that he is can be distracted in that way.
Yes, his pride gets in the way, and that's why he's not any higher, right? It's just like
Right.
he wouldn't have succeeded unless Thor enabled it. Like that's the only reason. It's
Exactly.
just like, yeah, we'll let you win because this is gonna destroy Hela. So cool.
All right, Indijaka, Eric Killmonger Stevens, as played by Michael B. Jordan. This
Oh
is
yeah,
another S
baby.
tier for me,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and especially because a lot like Thanos, people try to say like he had a point, but he didn't have a point. He's like he is saying the right things, but
Hmm.
he's lost. Like that is the tragedy of his character.
Absolutely.
He lost himself, he lost his family, he lost his connection to anything,
Yep.
and he let the American imperialism take him over, and
Mhm.
he did American tactics, which is the violence and the fucking with people mentally.
Yep.
Um yeah, I think he's great, and even when he comes back to double down on like no, I you want to burn the world down like I did. This isn't about this isn't about like, oh no, we have a good idea.
Yeah.
We're gonna build and make bridges. He's like, no, we're trying to burn shit down. Yeah.
Yep. He's a great villain to me. His whole story from childhood all the way up to him actually taking the Wakandan throne and him starting to initiate his like, oh yeah, we're gonna ship these weapons out. We're gonna do this. We're like great stuff from this guy
Yeah.
altogether, right? And then the idea that it's just like what's his fault? What's his name? Where got Short Martin Short's character there. He's just like, oh yeah, this is what he does. This is
Oh
uh
no, Martin Freeman.
no, Mark Freeman. Sorry, Martin
Yeah.
Freeman. Sorry. Yeah, Martin Freeman's character is like, yeah, they destabilize governments in states of transition. Does
Hmm.
this, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah, people
wild
really miss that
stuff.
part of it. People are like,
Yeah,
no, he wanted to like he wanted black people to survive. I'm like, no, he didn't. The
no,
one Martin Freeman lays it out for you.
yes,
This is exactly what we do. He's
mhm,
doing it.
yep,
Two, he says, I will kill anyone who even like listens to you. I've been waiting
mhm,
to do this. I'm gonna kill everybody and I'm gonna kill anyone who ever followed you. So
mhm,
no, he doesn't want black people to be to uprise. And three, and I know people don't like to hear this, but he's the only black male character who hurts women in that movie.
yep,
And that especially when you get to Wakanda Forever, but it's in Black Panther too. The reverence for black women in that world is
mhm,
so high that you can't possibly agree that he was for black liberation while he's shooting his girlfriend just to get away
right.
and threatening to murder a woman who was like, maybe we shouldn't burn all of this crop, which he could have shared with other black people to help empower them.
Yeah, yeah, that's the difference between like when people are making that argument that he's only for this. I'm like, no, it's that's what Chadwick does at the end of it. That's what T'Challa
It's
does at the end of it. He
it's what
uses his resources to
it's
empower everyone else. He creates those research foundations and all that kind of stuff. Killmonger pushes him in that direction to be like, yeah, oh, this is what liberation actually is. He's like, I want to liberate, and very much like what we talked about with the whole Emil Blonsky side of things is like he's saying the right things, but it's all about actually amassing power for himself
mhm.
and just destroying anything that gets in his way to do it because his anger is that great. He's just a child born entirely in trauma, and when that happens, I'm just like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Like even when he goes to the ancestral plane and his father's
He's
just
like, no,
like,
maybe it's you
I
who's
failed
lost.
you. Yeah. It's wild stuff. He's an S tier villain to me.
Yeah, he's great. All right, Ulysses Claw, that's played by Andy Serkis.
Hmm.
This guy knows how to take over a scene. I feel
Yep.
like every scene he's in is great.
Yep.
Uh, and really, that his plan was just get more vibranium, which he does in two separate movies. He's
Mhm.
constantly getting more vibranium
Yep.
until he meets someone he can't control. But
Yep.
I don't know, like I kind of want to put him at A.
I have him at A. I think his plan is actually wild as the idea of like, no, his plan is accurate in the sense is like, no, we're exposing the truth. Wakanda has like mountains of vibranium and all that. You think it's a little amount? No, it's wild, like all this kind of stuff. And the fact that he's like the only one that actually saw Wakanda and left and all that, and
And
how he
they can never get him.
Yeah, they can
He's
never get him.
constantly evading them.
Yep. He's an A tier villain to me. And like you said, the performance is great. I think the only knock on him is like, oh yeah, he never made it to pure sound mode and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's goofy as hell. Like
Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
I
I'm
don't want to
glad they
watch.
were able to put in his sound cannon. That's great.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm like, and the tech that he has with it, like how his arm just like comes apart and does, I'm
Hmm.
like, to do a Mega Man blast, I'm like, that is cool. Like he does great things. And
And he knew exactly what to do when he was caught by Black Panther. Like, oh no,
yep,
please, not in front of everyone. And it's just like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing.
yeah, it's great.
Someone who doesn't go out of their means. Like he's like, no, I know exactly what I do and how to do it, and it
Yeah,
works until he accidentally got a Wakandan on his team.
exactly. And I like the idea too that like when it was just him and Killmonger and Killmonger's girlfriend in that part, he had the ability to know, no, you're obviously gonna kill me, so I got to threaten this situation. I got to take
Hmm.
back the power and all that. He's a smart guy. Like
Yeah,
he's really good. And like you said, that whole scene in him in South Korea, where he just blows up that thing. He's like, I made it right. I made it.
yeah,
I'm like, he's so much fun.
yeah.
He's an
He's
A
great.
tier villain.
Ava Starr, aka Ghost, is played by Hannah John Kamen.
Mhm.
This is hard. I mean,
Is it hard? I mean, I
I
think the only thing that she's got going for her really is the look. The look is cool.
I like the way she fought though. Like I like that she was able to incorporate that into her fighting. I think that didn't really put her in a position to have a great performance, but
No,
like her plan, what was her plan? I mean,
her plan was to
I think
not
the other thing she
die.
has going for her is that she got the good guys to help her.
Yes,
Like
yes,
she wasn't defeated. It was like it got to a point where they're like, oh, I guess we're just gonna help her now. Like she's not necessarily against us.
yeah. Like she's still in jail by the end of it and all that kind of stuff. Sure, rightfully so, but like, yeah, all we need is these particles in this place and all that kind of stuff, and then you'll be fixed. I'm like, all right, cool. Not a great villain though. It's
No,
just not a great villain, and I think that's a trend amongst the Ant-Man kind of
I
films.
think that's why it's hard for me. Is that I'm like I don't. I think I was more interested in her than Yellow Jacket,
Yeah,
but I'm also like the more you talk about it, the more you're like she's not great though, but it's just better than someone that what we put in C tier.
yeah, and I like I have her at C tier because the only thing she's got going for her is like that suit is so cool. Like I love that suit that she wears. It's the
All
freaking
right,
coolest thing.
she's in C tier, but with the understanding she's still better than Yellow Jacket.
Yes, like if there was a C plus tier for sure,
Yeah.
but like we definitely have her above Yellow Jacket because she's definitely more of a threat. But her motivation, her plan is just like, oh, you just want to save yourself. That's
Which she
fine.
does. That's the thing. Is like her plan worked.
Yeah.
Anyway, Minerva, as played by Gemma Chan.
Yikes.
I mean, she is a villain, and I only bring her up because she has like a moment with Captain Marvel where it's like, "Oh, is that why we never hung out?" She's like, "I just don't like you." It's not
Mhm.
this, like I think that they made her more than the rest of the team. Like
Yep.
we obviously already knew Korath, but like the rest of the team doesn't really get a moment like that. So
All right.
I put her in there for that. That like
Mhm.
they tried with her. I
Yeah.
think she's forgettable, and I think it's also damning that they recast her as an Eternal.
Well, I mean, yeah, yeah, but I mean the blue makeup for Minerva, it really does help
That's
me
what
be
I mean
like,
about in performances. Like they weren't like, oh, but everyone's gonna associate her with Minerva. I think they were like, yeah, who cares?
yeah,
If she was Minerva, we could just do whatever we want.
yeah, 100%.
Is my feeling. Uh,
I
so
put her at F tier
yeah,
because
let's.
I'm just like, putting people of color in makeup, like color altering makeup, and then also the fact that she didn't have a plan at all. She just was there, and
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong. Like I love me some Gemma Chan. I think she's a beautiful woman, but I'm not gonna start putting that high up, especially when the blue kind of makes it so you can't really see her anyways. She's
Oh,
a
I would say
throwaway.
she's distinct enough that you know who that is, if you
Yes.
know who she is. But yeah,
Oh, absolutely. But
um,
it just the blue does mute a lot of what you like about Gemma Chan. Um, but
so yeah, F tier.
F tier
There we
villain.
go.
Mhm.
Yanrog.
Jan
To be
Rock.
honest, I also I feel he's also F tier, but
I
like even
agree.
with him coming back and What If, I was just kind of like, yep, like cool. I'm glad they got Jude Law back specifically and not just the character, but it is
Mhm.
just kind of like what a. I guess his plan worked, which was make Carol Danvers believe she's less than. And he did do that for a bit, and then he
Yeah.
still had the failsafe of like the inhibitor on her, but it was just really like you had nothing after that. Like it was just your basic admission of like she's just better than me. I'm not going to be able to deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a great villain to me. Like his plan sucked for
Yeah,
the most part because to me, as far as I'm concerned, like the what is the AI thing that controls all of whatever was the actual
Annette Benning.
lead or villain of that thing, and Jan Rog's just all right. Well, I'm an AI program, so I actually need people to do something for me. So you do this, and you can climb the corporate ladder. And I'm just like, sucks. And he's just like, all right, well. I'm not saying Jude Law is a bad looking guy or anything. He's a very good looking guy, but there's nothing unique about his aesthetic
No.
aside from, oh yeah, okay, cool. The rest of the Marvels are wearing that.
So are
Um,
we okay with him at F tier or no?
yeah, I'm good with him at F
All
tier. I
right.
did not have any idea. Um, I put him at D because I didn't know realize we were doing an F, but I'm glad we're doing an F because Jon Rock is definitely an F tier villain.
Uh
Sucks.
Quentin Beck, Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal. I know this is a team, but for for the sake of argument, let's just say
Mhm.
it's just Jake Gyllenhaal. I I'd have a hard time putting him lower than A if I'm being honest. This guy really
Ah,
he really got Peter good, and like
God,
it
Peter
still
and Nick
it
Fury
still
good.
echoes in No Way Home. Like
Yeah.
people are still like, no, Mysterio was right about this menace. Like yeah, you like I know this movie is the movie of Even in Death I'm the Hero, but Mysterio got to have that moment too of Even in
Mhm.
Death I'm the Hero.
So I actually had Mysterio at S tier.
All right,
I
I'm
think
willing to
he's
hear you out on this.
I think he's a fantastic villain. He knows the psychology more than anything else. And that's what's important, right? It's not people need to actually like he just wanted the world to see Peter Parker as a villain.
Hmm.
And to me that was he's so successful at it. Did he sacrifice everything to do it? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean
But
he
he did
didn't
it,
win. He absolutely won.
and I think yes, he wanted the world to see Peter Parker, but it was more he wanted to ruin Tony Stark's legacy, and
Yes.
that so like taking this kid who was Tony Stark's legacy and ruining it for people. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
It-
it's really good. Yeah, I'm fine with putting him at S tier.
Yeah, I just
Honestly,
the whole thing about Mysterio just being like, oh yeah, my original tech was used as like it was made fun of by Stark, but it was like his therapy, which really benefited him and all this kind of stuff. And he's still gonna shit all over it. And then how he recruits the rest of the team of people that have been uh, like slighted by Stark. It's just he does such a great thing, and like ah, it, his ability to manipulate it's such a good villain trait there.
hmm
He does it so well.
like I
And like
remember
I said,
people in the theater who didn't know Mysterio was a bad guy being truly like, "What the fuck?" when it's revealed that he's a
wow.
bad guy.
Yeah. No, that's what I like about bad guys is if they can manipulate you to thinking that they're good and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's a good bad guy, you know? It's someone that knows that no matter what they do, the public opinion of them is still important
Hmm.
enough to uh, get by on a lot of different things, right? So to me, he's an S tier villain. Like his look is amazing. Good.
Yep.
The idea of just
And
like,
I didn't want to like Mysterio. I don't like that. I didn't really like that character up until this movie and reading
mhm,
the Spider-Man comic where he creates the portals for Miles and Peter to
yeah,
cross over. Like I was like, oh, this is a good way to do him. And I will admit I hadn't read a lot of Mysterio comics, but I just didn't really like the general conceit. But I liked that they played him more like a scarecrow of
Yes.
like, oh, he's just gonna make you hallucinate. It's not necessarily like he could be anybody or whatever. So yeah, I like that take on it, which I am
Hmm.
acknowledging came from the comics. It didn't come from MCU, but they pulled it off well in this.
Yeah, yeah, because every version of Mysterio in the past, I'm just like, this is a goofy looking fishbowl head dude. In this, I'm just like, oh, the fact that they made the fishbowl head kind of like the smoke effect in
Mm-hmm.
it, I'm just like, that's the coolest thing. The coolest thing, because now it's just like, what is this illusion going on? And it, he does it so well.
I
Like
really like
everything
it.
he does to mess with Peter's spider sense and how
And
he
to make
messes.
him feel less than. Like I
Yeah,
feel like he really does a great job.
yeah. Like how he breaks down to be like, Happy, you need to tell me something that like only you would know. Like
Yeah, I
how he
saw you made that. I saw you purchase some porn. He's like, okay,
yeah,
okay, that's it.
it's that was so good.
He's like, it didn't say it on the thing, but I could tell.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, all right, we should move on.
Yeah.
Dracov's daughter. I put her name in there, but then autocorrect changed it to gibberish. So I all I can say is Dracov's daughter as Taskmaster.
Mm.
So as we talked about when we did this episode with Michelle, I'm not I don't care about Taskmaster, so I didn't feel betrayed by
Hmm.
this at all. I'm not saying she's A or S tier. It's just more like she's kind of like a C tier to me. With like, yeah, like she got the job done. Like she's by design doesn't have a plan. She is being puppeted in this,
Hmm.
and she fucked some people up. So I can't really. Like, I don't see this as a big loss, and she's supposed to be in Thunderbolts, so a
Hmm.
lot like Thaddeus Ross, she might get better in my estimation. But yeah, I don't feel strongly that this was a bad thing. I thought it fit the movie and it worked for me.
Yeah. I agree. I don't care about the Taskmaster villain at all from the comic books. So they actually did something interesting here where it's just like, oh shit, that's what like that's how far this guy at the Red Room will go is like even mess up his own daughter for this use and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The gender swap is not a big deal to me. The big deal to me about this character being uh and the comic accurate suit looks incredible. It looks really, really good. The only thing
They
that
even
sucked
did
about
the
it is
cool
like,
stuff of like her loading certain things so you knew like when she was doing a character you knew from the MCU. Like
yes,
yeah, I thought all that was good. It's just obviously she can't for me can't really be higher than a C because she's not really meant to be anything other than a puppet.
yeah, and I agree with that. There's no plan, and that the plan is like a third of how we're rating this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
her being just, and this sucks for the character that she's just like been mind controlled her entire life, and that she's when they kill her, kill the dad and all that kind of stuff. Her first words are like, "Is he dead? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I free from this madness?" Like, it makes me so much more empathetic towards her than viewing her as an actual villain. I'm like, no, you were trafficked for lack of a better
Mm-hmm.
term, and it that sucks, right? It's
Yeah,
when
she's
people are
too
like shitting
interesting
all
for
over
me
it.
to go lower. But
Yeah.
obviously, we're giving examples of how she's not actually a villain. But it was
Yes.
just she's so interesting
Hmm.
that I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her next.
Absolutely. Like that I think will shift our opinion of it for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But yeah, C tier I'm good with Taskmaster. I think the best thing about based on the judging criteria we have is the aesthetic of Taskmaster.
Yeah,
Like Taskmaster looks incredible.
yeah. Dracov, as played by Ray Winstone. I I think for the movie he was in, he made a lot of sense. Like the whole idea that
Mhm.
that movie, I don't agree with this, but that movie was talking about how pain makes you better and stronger, and the whole thing where uh, Natasha is willing to break her own nose to get through and finish the job is something he couldn't even do. Like she's constantly showing him how like all he had was the ability to control minds because he can't actually get anything done. He's not willing to do what it takes. I thought that was great and what he represented. Again, I'm not arguing for like an A level, so it was just more like I thought for the movie he was in, he really fit and made sense to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I had him in C tier because I thought like the stuff he was doing to women in the Red Room and all that kind of stuff was evil as shit. And it was smart for him to put those fail safes in all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, like you said, the smell from what Natasha was doing and all that kind of stuff, like the breaking of the nose. But I'm just like, it's the guy.
Yeah,
It's
I'm fine to have Drake off at C as well.
cool. Next on the
So
list, we got Wen Wu, the real
yes,
Mandarin.
Tony Leung,
Hmm.
he's great. I think I would put him at A.
Yeah.
I think he is he's got great moments. Like you brought it up, like when you talked about the importance of the name and why this would be such a big deal for him to like fuck up and be like, "What are you calling me the Mandarin? Like this? What are you doing here? Like
Hmm.
this is important shit that you can't really step on."
Hmm.
So he's trying to teach this American Chinese person, but he's also kind of showing his values in general and being like, "Look, you're not going to convince me I'm doing the wrong thing here. Like this is principles here." And so I really liked all of that. Obviously, he we see his whole arc in one movie. Like I can't imagine other
Hmm.
than What If showing up in What If and stuff. I can't imagine him coming back.
Yeah.
Uh, honestly, I just was like, well, I don't understand why you kept that Trevor guy alive. That guy should have been dead.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
I'm for the performance. I'm happy he didn't die. But in terms of the principles we saw him talking about, that's the guy that's got to die. That guy's got
Yeah,
to go.
I agree. Trevor knows too much. The idea
Yeah.
that he's kept him alive just in this place and cushy as hell was just like the most inconsistent thing about his
Hmm.
character. Um, his plan, which is to,
Free
get
his
back
wife.
with his love and all that kind of stuff. He was being manipulated toward the end, but like, and so I don't consider that to be the main thing. I think his main thing was, no, let's dominate China and let's have this like huge imperialistic rule for like thousands and thousands of years and all that. I'm like, yeah, he did a great job with that. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And his power with the 10 rings, he looks great and he
Hmm.
has multiple looks throughout everything, and I think that's what's really really good about Tony Leung's kind of character. He can play
They
that
got a lot
range.
out of him for
Yeah,
the one movie. Yeah, I don't
absolutely.
feel like cheated or anything.
No, no, he's an A tier villain to me. I think he's wonderful.
All right, we will put him in the A tier where he belongs.
Next on the list is Gore the God Butcher.
As played by Christian Bale.
Hmm.
I was a lot more lenient on him when we talked about it the first time. So I what I mean by that is Christian Bale obviously put in a good performance. They
Yes,
just were not interested in having him be in the movie in any meaningful way.
I agree.
So the look is good. I think the performance is good, but it all falls apart when you get to the arc of like
Yes.
you. Why wouldn't we see you killing these gods?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they got like he's another one where you're like he's got a point where like why are we letting these gods just play with us like this? I'm gonna
Yeah.
take them out. I think that's probably why I was so lenient because I was just like, yeah, I get it, I get what he's doing, but
Yeah.
the more you think about it, the more like, but you don't see him do anything, and
Yeah.
that affects performance
Yeah.
because
You get to
he's
see
got
him
that
kill
scene I
one god,
love where he's
right?
scaring the kids. I think
Yes.
that's a great scene. And
Yeah.
it's funny, like the behind the scenes is his son refused to be in that scene because everyone's
Yeah.
kids were in the movie, and his son was like, I can't deal with you like that."
So you're too good at this.
Yeah,
You're scaring me,
and
Dad.
it was sad because he was kind of like, "Oh, I was really looking forward to having a scene with my son," uh,
Right.
but yeah, I just if that supposed 4 hour cut of the movie came out, I can't imagine enjoying 4 hours of that, but like I like Love and Thunder more than most people, but the problem with it is that they cut Christian Bale's performance to shit.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so the only reason I'm saying that was that I would like to see the full version where we get to see more of Gore. I'm assuming, I'm
Hmm.
hoping, but also like I don't need 4 hours of that.
Yeah.
In
I,
general,
I I
I
heavily
think
agree with you. I like his motive behind everything, like the idea, like he spent his whole life praying, and the moment he does meet the god, he's just like being a complete narcissistic dick, and how all
And
gods
fully like
are.
laughing in his face, like, "Oh, you thought anything was good was gonna happen for you?
Yeah, it's just
You
like
serve
no,
me. That's it."
yeah, like that's the whole thing. And then the idea that he actually did get uh Thor to question his own kind of godlike
Hmm.
status and all that. What are we actually doing for these people and all that kind of stuff. He had great motives. He was, from that perspective, you could see, like you said, if they had given him more stuff to do, he would be better. I think he's actually like he looks amazing.
Hmm.
But based on what we actually got to see, I can't have him higher than C.
Interesting. I was gonna say I still put him at B, but sure, we can go C. I am not mad at that.
Yeah, because you're right. I'm like, you see him kill one god, and then the
Do
rest of the
you?
movie
Oh yeah,
has him
you at the
sidelined.
beginning he kills
Yeah,
one
at
god.
the very, very beginning. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
everything else is like, oh, look at the trail he left. And that sucks.
All right, Namor Tenochtitlan. To me, this is A level.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I I think yeah, where it falls apart for him is like he gets there, obviously, being like, no, 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 we'll be friends with them. That way they owe us. He gets that eventually, but the fact that it took him so long really made me be like, you you should have come to that sooner.
Yeah.
And but other than that, I think Namor is great. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he was pretty much doing it the
Yeah.
whole time. And then adjusted when he needed to.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
And
oh, okay,
I
well,
love that, the first time you see him in Wakanda and all that kind of stuff, they're like, how did you get through? Like all
mm-hmm.
their defenses and all that kind of stuff. And he's just like, oh, it's so clean here all day. And then he's still such a threatening presence in that moment. You're just like, this is awesome.
And he
He's
was like, I'll
really
kill your
good.
queen if you cross me. And then he did.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you thought I was joking. No, no, no. This is
Yeah.
happening now.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff. And at the end of the movie, for all intents and purposes, his people are still safe
Yeah.
because
Well,
of the agreement
he
with Wakanda.
protected his people.
Yeah, he did the thing. So I'm just like, all right. His goal was to protect his people. It wasn't to take out Wakanda or whatever. It was just that Wakanda is a threat
Yeah,
towards that.
that's the problem I had was just like it's not to the same level. But I'm gonna reference Batman versus v Superman again. Of like,
Mhm.
you should have had a better sense of who your enemies were in
Yes.
this. Like for me to put you higher, like just felt like you weren't fully aware of what was going on here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Next is Kang, as played by Jonathan Majors. Oh boy, I feel
Yeah.
like the least amount of time we can spend on this, the better. I'm gonna put him at B. I understand people are like, "Oh, this guy got killed by a bunch of ants," but he, I feel like the point of Kang is that you can be like, "Yeah, this guy's gone, but he's gonna keep coming back for you." Like,
Mhm.
I don't think the point of him is that he's actually a physical threat. It's more just that he will never stop.
Yes.
Um,
Which, you know, he was stopped, and that sucks.
in that movie, but it's like but then they show you the amount of Kangs that can still come for you.
Yeah, but the point of it was the thing that sucked to me was like, okay, we're told that that was the worst Kang, and it was stopped so effectively, and it was just like, oh, well, then that doesn't have me
Was
scared for the
okay.
rest of the Kangs.
I will give you that they probably said I don't remember that exactly. I felt like it was more just like this guy we don't like him the most, but that doesn't mean that there's everyone else was less powerful than him. I think there was just like we all agree on what we're
Mm,
doing. This guy's out there doing a bunch of shit we don't agree with, but
right.
like maybe they did say that. I just think that from everything I've read about King, the whole point isn't that he's physically imposing. He is
Mhm.
just a guy.
Yeah.
It's just because of how he can manipulate time and everything and how everything works with him. You just can't get rid of him. Once he's decided this is happening, you're not going to get rid of him easily. Even if you think, "Oh yeah, we beat him," there will be another iteration coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I originally had him at A tier because I'm like, oh man, they found a way to make his comic accurate suit look cool.
Mhm.
it's just like, because my biggest thing was like the concern I have again about painting people of color's
Right.
faces.
It was just a
And the fact
lighting
that I was
thing.
just like, oh, it's just an energy shield. That's a great workaround. I'm like, good for you on that, and like, all that kind of stuff. And when he gets his suit back, he does go ape shit and kills everyone and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. But at the end of the day, still got taken out by Ant-Man, and that sucks. That really sucks. It's just, oh man, I wish there was like, oh, he's not actually gone. This version of Kang hasn't actually gone. He's just out of sight.
Hmm.
It's it, I had him at A because of all those things, but yeah, I could
I
see him easily being B.
uh I would say up to you. I wouldn't push back on A.
Yeah, I'll put at B.
Okay.
Just because the idea of like the worst Kang's plan was crap. It was crap.
Well, that's the thing. I was like,
He got lucky. He didn't plan for any of that. He was just like, oh, cool, people are here that I can manipulate and then
no,
get
that was his plan. I'm gonna get Ant-Man. I'm gonna get what's his face. He's a
sure.
thief.
Yeah, I guess.
Uh,
But
Look, I wanted him at B, so I'm fine to put him there. I don't
yeah,
have a problem. Yeah. All right, we are at Modoc, as played by Corey Stoll.
yikes.
So here's the thing. I see the vision now why they did the Patton Oswalt Modoc, because like you're already setting him up to be not a serious person.
Yep.
I'm sure Kevin Feige was like, great, yeah, put that show out before we put out Ant-Man 3. People will be. I think people are upset that it wasn't someone else, but
Mhm.
I think, and this is not me arguing for him to be high up. It's just I didn't have a problem with it because I'm like, well, this is what we're doing in this cinematic universe of
Yeah.
using characters and making sure that like we finish out their storylines in a certain
Hmm.
way. Uh, so I didn't hate him. So again, I guess that's me just seeing he's not F to me. I'm not saying
Yeah.
he's high. I'm just like he's not F to me because it's like, all right, well, this is the end of the whatever that guy's name is,
Darren
Darren
Cross.
Cross
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I had
And
him at F. I did. Well, yeah,
you had
F.
him
I
at
have him
D,
at
but
F because I'm
you
just like character design. And you just look at Modoc from the design from the comics, and you're just like, how does that possibly ever going to look good? And when you see it, you're like, yeah, this looks terrible. The only time he looks good is when he's wearing the armor
to
thing.
be. I mean, visually, it's bad because of the graphics and stuff. But I
Yes.
don't know about if someone had the proper time to execute, if it would look that bad.
Well, I'm sure that would be the case, but the reality is they didn't have the time, and this is Marvel's crunch culture coming back to bite it in its own butt. It looked the worst. It was the worst thing I've ever seen from a
Okay,
character design standpoint. And like, don't get me wrong, I love some of the moments we got from him. He's like, "Don't be a diggle. I'm such a dick." And it's like all this kind of like, yeah,
I
that's
feel like
funny,
that's why I had him at D. But
right?
if you
But I
want
don't
him at
think
F,
he's.
I'm fine to put him there.
Yeah, I have him at F
All
because I'm
right.
just like, oh, your plan sucked. Your plan was just to be adjacent to power. That's not a plan. You're just a tool.
High evolutionary Chakuri. I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. I feel terrible. But the guy from Peacemaker.
Yep.
Great. So this was what I was talking about a one note character from James Gunn who
Mhm.
didn't feel like nothing. Like I felt the menace. They gave you the time with him to really like interact with the characters that we care about, to
Mhm.
give him moments of his one noteness having different flavors with different people. Uh to me is A tier, but I will gladly adjust whenever you whatever you say.
Uh, so I have him also at A, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the Grandmaster at A. I
Wait,
think
high
he's so
evolutionary,
the
right?
high evolutionary, sorry, high evolutionary. Yeah, I have him at A. I think he's absolutely amazing. I think he's so cool. He's just to the point of like one note. He doesn't have anything beyond that, right? He just wants to achieve genetic perfection, and that's
Hmm.
a monstrosity and all that kind of stuff. And
and you know his work will never be done. Like Rocket says it out loud, but you're just like you watch him, you're like, oh yeah, like there is no satisfying end for him. He's just gonna keep going, and that's what makes him so dangerous.
Yeah. And it's because one could argue like with Aisha and the gold people, I forget their name and all that kind of stuff. I'm
Sovereign.
like the sovereign. I'm like, yeah, you probably did achieve the closest to perfection ever and all that kind of stuff there. But then the idea of like, oh yeah, you limited their brain capacity and all that kind of stuff is just like, wait, what are you actually doing here? Are you designing? Are you trying to achieve that perfection, or are you trying to find ways to continually sabotage your own work so that you're actually perfection in this scenario? You know what I mean? But it's he's great. I love the face thing, but at the end of the day, I'm just like one note. The
Mm-hmm.
plan is just continually one thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, but you
And
really do hate him. So again, that obviously comes down to performance,
heavily effective
and the look of
performance.
his skin being pulled over the thing is great.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm glad they actually like committed to showing you because I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh,
the
that would
window
have been
skin.
disappointing if they didn't.
Darben as played by Zawe Ashton. I'm sorry, I'm not. I should have looked up how to pronounce these names before
Yeah.
we started. Me honestly, I said it when we talked about the movie. I understand that people think she's not good, but what I liked about her was that she came at it honestly and was like, I am actually legitimately trying to help my people. So if it
Yes.
means working with these people who I hate, I will do it. And then it was actually Captain Marvel that fucked all that up. She wasn't
Mhm.
like tricked you. She was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're working with the Destroyer. Like, all right, then it's
Yep.
on.
Yep. I had her at C tier.
Yep,
I think
that's where I have her.
I like you understand everything that she's doing. You really,
Mm-hmm.
really do. You're like, yeah, you're playing the politics game. You're doing all this, you're doing all and you actually have power. The thing that sucked to me about Dar Ben was I'm like, really, you're just gonna give her Ronan's powers? Like that's crappy. Like that part
Yeah, she doesn't
sucked a
do
lot.
anything to like exceed expectations. Really, you're just kind of like, yeah. Like, I think she's interesting because of the thoughtfulness she shows.
Yes.
Um, so she feels better to me than, oh no, we have Ronan in C tier as well. I still think she's better than Ronan, but like, uh, they have the same issue of like, yeah, I guess like this is just your cause, and you're not really dynamic in any other way.
Yep. And the idea of like, okay, if you did succeed, what are you gonna have a off to the sunset like Thanos moment, or are you then actually gonna be evil? Because in that beginning scene where she's like trying to negotiate with the scroll, I'm like, yeah, see, she's not that bad. She didn't
See, I
plan
think. Sorry to cut you off. What were you gonna
like she didn't plan to like, oh no, I'm gonna be sneaky and
say? Mm-hmm.
destroy them all like this. And all. Look, no, she legitimately came there to negotiate, and then yeah,
She
shit
even
fell
told them,
apart
"Look,
because of
I'm
Captain
gonna
Marvel.
destroy this thing, so you should leave now. Like this is the
Yeah,
timing of it. You gotta go." I think to the question you just asked, I would believe that Ronan would be the evil person even after he got what he wanted. Whereas
yes,
it does feel like Darben would just be like, "Okay, well, my people are taken care of. Did it."
yeah. We've got air, we've got sunshine, and we've got water. We're good. I'm
Yep.
gonna enjoy my work now and all that kind of stuff. That's what I see Darben doing. With Ronan, I 100% it's like, no, I'm not gonna rest until all the Skrull are dead, kind of deal. For her, she just like, no, I legitimately just wanted my planet to not be messed up anymore.
All right, guys, we finished it. I'm sure we missed a villain or two that you, in your opinion, but just think about it this way. No, we didn't. All right. Uh, let's go through this tier list at S level, or do you want me to go from F to S?
Uh, let's go F to S.
Okay, excellent. So at F, in no particular order, just the order we went through
Mhm.
in terms of when they appear in the movies. F tier is Malekith, Korath, Cassalius, Dormammu, Minerva, Yanrog, and Modok. At D tier, Thunderbolt Ross, The Collector, Mordo, Shocker. At C tier, Justin Hammer, Ronan, Yellowjacket, Surtur, Ghost, Taskmaster, Dracoff, Gore the God Butcher, and Darben. Then at B tier is Ironmonger, Abomination, Whiplash, Killian, Aisha, Grandmaster, and Kang. Then at A tier, we have got Loki, Red Skull, Zola, Crossbones, Pierce, Ultron, Ego, Vulture, Hela, Claw, Wenwu, Namor, and High Evolutionary. And then our S level is Thanos, Wanda, Zemo, Killmonger, and Mysterio.
Yeah, baby.
We did it, guys.
We did
All
it.
right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Game Movies, Contra Zoom Pod, and Springfield Googleplex. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, and more shows. If you'd like to hear older episodes of our show, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten, or we're on a whole bunch of podcast platforms, so you can pick how you want to do that. And if you want to get in touch with us, we are at TDS Spoiled on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. So you've got options there as well. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.